Story 1, The Load That Gets Heavier. I picked up the cargo in Memphis weighing exactly 800 pounds. But by the time I reached Nashville, my trailer axles were screaming under 12,000 pounds of freight I hadn't loaded, and the weight was still increasing at a rate of 73 pounds per mile. Kevin Murphy, 34 years old, 6 years hauling mostly southeast routes. I specialize in small, high-value loads, electronics, pharmaceuticals, the kind of freight that needs careful handling and tight security. The Memphis job was exactly my wheelhouse. 800 pounds of medical equipment, destination Houston, delivery window 48 hours. Simple, clean, good money. The warehouse manager who loaded me was nervous, kept checking over his shoulder, kept asking if I was sure I wanted the freight, kept emphasizing that I'd signed the manifest and accepted responsibility. Red flags everywhere, but I was 2 months behind on child support and desperate enough to ignore them. The cargo was 8 sealed aluminum cases, each about 4 feet long, 2 feet wide, perfectly identical. They loaded clean onto my flatbed, strapped down with professional efficiency. The weight ticket at the warehouse scale showed my truck at 22,400 pounds total. Subtract the tractor, the trailer, and fuel that left exactly 800 pounds of cargo. Math checked out. I signed, secured my load, and pulled onto I-40 East at 6:47 p.m. At mile marker 12, I felt the first change. A shudder through my suspension like I'd hit a pothole, but the road was smooth. I checked my mirrors. The cargo was still secured, still properly strapped, but my tractor was riding lower. The air suspension had adjusted, compensating for additional weight. I pulled onto the shoulder, walked back to the flatbed. The 8 cases hadn't moved, hadn't changed, still perfectly secured. But when I grabbed one of the straps to check tension, it was tighter than I'd left it, not loosening from vibration like normal tightening, like the cargo underneath was expanding. I got back on the road, made it to mile marker 19 before the low air pressure alarm went off. I'd recently replaced those airbags. Brand new suspension. No way they should be failing. But the gauge showed both rear trailer bags at critical pressure, like they were supporting max weight. At a truck stop in Jackson, Tennessee, I found a scale, drove onto the platform, waited for the attendant to get the reading. He came back with a confused expression. Says here you're at 34,800 pounds total. That's wrong. I loaded at 22.4. He shrugged. Scale doesn't lie. Maybe you picked up some moisture. These old trailers can trap water, adds weight you don't expect. 12,000 pounds of moisture. Impossible, but I didn't argue. I paid for the weigh, pulled off the scale, and checked my cargo again. Still 8 cases, still perfectly secured, still identical to what I'd loaded. But my trailer was definitely sitting lower. The tires were compressed, the suspension maxed out. I called the dispatcher. Listen, something's wrong with this load, it's getting heavier. How much heavier? I started at 22.4. I'm at 34.8 now. That's 12,000 pounds I didn't load. Long silence. Then, Kevin, you signed for 800 pounds. That's what's on your manifest. That's what you're delivering. I'm telling you the weight is increasing. Something's wrong with the cargo. The cargo is sealed medical equipment. It can't change weight. You probably hit some water on the road, trailer splashed it up, it's sitting in the frame rails. Happens all the time. This isn't water, this is. Deliver the load, Kevin. You're under contract. You signed. If you abandon this freight, you're liable for the full value, which I'll remind you is listed at $470,000. He hung up. I stood next to my groaning trailer, feeling it settle lower as I watched and did the math. At 12,000 pounds gained over 73 miles, I was adding weight at roughly 164 pounds per mile. I had 798 miles to Houston. At that rate, I'd arrive weighing. I couldn't do the calculation, too horrifying, but I knew it was way over legal limits, way over what my trailer was rated for, and the weight was still increasing. I could feel it, a steady pressure building in my suspension, in my axles, in the frame itself. I drove anyway, didn't have a choice. Between the contract liability and my child support debt, abandoning the load meant bankruptcy. I'd lose my truck, my CDL, everything. So I drove, and the weight increased, and my truck settled lower and lower onto its suspension. By Nashville, the scale read 49,000 pounds. I'd gained another 14,000 pounds in 112 miles. My tires were starting to bulge. The trailer frame was visibly sagging. Other truckers at the truck stop stared, pointed, kept their distance like my truck was contagious. One old-timer approached me at the fuel island. "Son, you know you're riding illegal, right? You're overweight by probably 15,000 pounds. DOT catches you, they'll impound your truck and throw your ass in jail." "I know." "Then why?" "The cargo's increasing on its own. I loaded legal, something happening to the freight." He looked at my trailer, at the 8 aluminum cases strapped to the flatbed. "Sealed cargo." "Yeah." "Paperwork say what's inside." I showed him the manifest. It listed the contents as medical research equipment, biological samples. The old-timer's face went pale. "Oh, Jesus, you're hauling growth cargo. That's bad news, son, real bad." "What the fuck is growth cargo?" "Illegal in 43 states. It's biological material that's still active, still growing. They seal it in those cases to slow it down, but they can't stop it completely. It doubles its mass every 150 miles or so. You started with 800 pounds. You're gonna be at 100,000 before you hit Texas." "That's impossible. Physics doesn't apply to growth cargo. That's why it's illegal. You're not hauling equipment, son. You're hauling something alive. Something that's consuming energy from somewhere, parallel dimensions, quantum states, I don't know the science, and converting it into mass. And it won't stop until it's delivered to wherever can process it. Or until it gets so heavy it collapses your truck and keeps growing right through the pavement." He walked away before I could ask more questions. I got back in my cab, hands shaking, and pulled onto I-40 toward Little Rock. The steering was getting heavy. The truck's engine, normally powerful enough to pull 70,000 pounds easily, was straining to maintain speed. The transmission shifted up earlier, working harder. Everything about the truck screamed that it was overloaded and getting worse. At the Arkansas border, I hit a weigh station. No way to avoid it. Open scales, mandatory stop. I pulled onto the platform, watching the scale operator's expression change from bored to confused to alarmed as the numbers climbed. "Sir, step out of the vehicle. You're reading at 67,000 pounds." "I know. Legal limit is 80,000 total. You're 17,000 over." "It's 18,000 over, actually. I started at 22,400. "Sir, I'm going to need you to open that trailer." "It's sealed cargo. Manifest says I can't break the seals until delivery." "Then I'm impounding your truck pending DOT investigation." I should have let him. Should have walked away, let them deal with whatever was growing in those aluminum cases. But I thought about my daughter, about the support payments I owed, about losing my truck and my livelihood. I made the worst choice of my life. "The cargo is temperature sensitive. If you impound me, it'll spoil. That's $470,000 of liability you'll be taking on." He hesitated. I pressed the advantage. "Call my dispatcher, verify the cargo, but do it fast because every minute we wait, the temperature rises." He called, 20 minutes of arguing. Finally, he came back. "You can go, but you're taking Route 67 south, avoiding all weigh stations, and if you get caught overweight, this station denies ever seeing you." I took the deal, got back on the road, following rural highways through Arkansas, avoiding interstates, avoiding scales. The truck was handling like a nightmare now. Steering required both hands and constant correction. The brakes barely slowed the mass. I took turns at crawling speeds, terrified the trailer would jackknife or tip from the weight. At a fuel stop in Texarkana, I scaled again. 92,000 pounds. I'd more than quadrupled my starting weight. The math said I was adding roughly 175 pounds per mile now, the rate increasing as the cargo grew. The trailer was sitting on its axles, the air suspension completely compressed. The tires were flat-spotted, wearing unevenly, screaming with every rotation. I opened the trailer straps to check the cargo one more time. The 8 aluminum cases looked identical, but they felt different. Warm, vibrating faintly. And they'd grown. Not visibly larger, but denser, heavier, like their atomic structure was compressing, packing more mass into the same volume. When I touched one of the cases, it was hot, not burning but wrong, body temperature. And underneath the metal I felt movement, rhythmic, like breathing. Whatever was inside wasn't equipment, it was alive, and it was growing. I drove through East Texas on back roads, avoiding every scale, every rest stop, every place where authorities might check my load. The truck topped 100,000 pounds somewhere near Tyler. The engine was screaming in low gear, barely main. Attaining 30 miles per hour on flat ground. Hills had become impossible. I had to take a 20-mile detour to avoid a 6% grade that my overloaded truck couldn't climb. Other drivers saw me and veered away. My truck looked wrong, sitting so low that the trailer fenders nearly touched the tires. The whole rig groaned with every bump, metal stressed beyond its design limits. I was driving a disaster waiting to happen. The delivery address in Houston wasn't a hospital or a research facility. It was a warehouse in the industrial district, unmarked except for a number. I arrived at 3:27 a.m., well past my delivery window, with my truck reading 138,000 pounds on the last scale I'd risked. I'd gained 116,000 pounds since Memphis. The cargo had multiplied its weight by 145 times. The warehouse doors opened before I could knock. Men in white, clean suits directed me to back into a receiving bay. They wouldn't let me unstrap the cargo. They cut the straps with bolt cutters, then used a forklift, an industrial monster rated for 20,000 pounds, to lift each case. Even the forklift struggled. The cases had to weigh over 15,000 pounds each now. The warehouse manager handed me an envelope. Cash, $20,000, more than twice my quoted rate. You delivered when the last 3 drivers didn't. Bonus for reliability. What the fuck is in those cases? He smiled. Medical research, biological samples, exactly like the manifest says. Biological samples don't multiply their mass by 100 times. These ones do. They're consuming quantum energy, converting probability into matter. We're growing replacement organs, Mr. Murphy. Livers, hearts, kidneys, whole organs cultured from single cells. The cases keep them in a state of accelerated growth. By the time you delivered them, each case contains roughly 47,000 viable organs, worth about $12 million per case. That's impossible. And yet here we are. He gestured to my truck, still sitting low even with the cargo removed. You'll want to get your suspension checked. The weight stress causes permanent deformation. Most drivers need a full trailer rebuild after hauling growth cargo. I looked at my trailer. It was visibly bent, the frame rails warped from supporting weight they were never designed for. The tires were shredded. The axles were probably cracked. The whole trailer was a write-off. This is illegal, the old-timer at the truck stop said. It's illegal to haul growth cargo without proper permits. We have the permits. You signed a contract agreeing to haul sealed cargo without inspection. Everything was perfectly legal, Mr. Murphy. You just didn't ask the right questions before you agreed to the job. They escorted me out. I drove my ruined truck to a motel, paid for a room, and collapsed. When I woke up 8 hours later, I checked my bank account. The 20,000 was there. I checked my truck. Still parked outside, still visibly damaged, but something was wrong. It was sitting lower. I ran outside. The truck was empty, no cargo, no trailer, just the tractor. But it was riding on its front axle like it weighed twice what it should. I checked underneath. Nothing there, checked the cab, empty, but the truck was heavier, definitely heavier. I called the warehouse. The manager answered. My truck is still gaining weight. Ah, yes, that's a known side effect. Growth cargo leaves a sort of impression, a quantum echo. Your truck was exposed to the field for too long. It's converted some of its probability mass into actual mass. The effect should plateau in a few days. How heavy will it get? Hard to say. Usually 20–30% heavier than original weight. You'll need to account for it when you load freight going forward. You're saying my truck is permanently heavier, that it's going to weigh more forever. Correct. The mass is real, Mr. Murphy. You've added physical matter to your truck just by hauling the cargo. Think of it as weight that manifests from other timelines where your truck was loaded differently. It's all here now, in this timeline, permanent and real. He hung up. I sat in my cab, feeling it settle lower, feeling the suspension compress, knowing that every job I took from now on would require me to account for phantom weight that shouldn't exist but did. Weight I'd picked up by hauling something that converted possibility into reality. My truck scales now at 34,000 pounds empty. It should weigh 22,000. That's 12,000 pounds of nothing, weight that has no source, no explanation, no solution. The DOT can't see it on their scanners. It doesn't show up on inspections, but every scale reads it. Every weigh station stops me for being overweight. Every load I haul hits legal limits before I'm half loaded. And it's still increasing. Slowly now, maybe 10 pounds a week, but steady, inevitable. My truck is still growing, still manifesting mass from whatever dimension the growth cargo pulled from. In a few months, I won't be able to haul anything. The truck will be too heavy to operate legally, too heavy to move. I've seen other trucks like mine around the South. Sitting low, riding heavy, drivers with desperate expressions who won't make eye contact. We all hauled growth cargo. We all took the money. We all signed contracts without asking the right questions. And now we're all getting heavier, 1 pound at a time, carrying weight that shouldn't exist but does. Weight that came from somewhere else, some other version of reality where our trucks were loaded with different cargo, heavier cargo. All those possible timelines collapsed into this one, making our trucks real-world manifestations of probability. The load that gets heavier, the freight that never stops growing. The cargo that converts maybe into definitely and leaves you carrying the weight of every choice you didn't make, every load you didn't haul, every version of yourself that took a different route. I'm at 34,200 pounds now. By next month, 35,000. The year after that, 40,000. Eventually, the truck will be too heavy to move. It'll sit in a parking lot somewhere, slowly manifesting more and more mass until it collapses through the pavement and keeps going, a gravity well of impossible weight pulling everything toward it. But at least I made my child support payment. At least I kept my truck a little longer. At least I earned $20,000 for hauling something that the universe never intended to exist. The load that gets heavier, still on my trailer even though it's long gone, still manifesting, still growing, still converting the weight of other possibilities into the crushing reality of this one, pound by inevitable pound. Story 2, the driver who won't stop waving. There's a trucker on Route 20 through Montana who's been waving at me from the opposite lane for 6 straight hours. And every time I pass him going east while he goes west, his smile gets wider and his truck gets closer to mine. And I just realized his truck is driving backward. Lisa Rodriguez, 47 years old, 15 years on the road, mostly northern routes. I've driven Route 20 across Montana maybe 400 times, know every truck stop, every town, every mile marker. But I'd never seen the driver in the blue Freightliner before tonight, and now I can't stop seeing him. Every 12 minutes we pass each other, him westbound in the opposite lane, me eastbound. And every time he waves, big, enthusiastic wave like we're old friends. First time we passed, mile marker 247, I thought nothing of it. Just another trucker being friendly. I waved back, professional courtesy, kept driving. 12 minutes later, mile marker 256, we passed again. Same blue Freightliner, same driver, same enthusiastic wave. I waved back, but slower this time. Confused. The math didn't work. If we were both doing 60 in opposite directions, we'd be creating separation at 120 miles per hour. We shouldn't pass each other twice in 12 minutes. Third time, mile marker 265, I really looked at him. White guy, maybe 50, baseball cap, huge smile. His wave was bigger this time, more animated, like he was excited to see me again. And his truck was closer to the center line. Not dangerously close, just closer than trucks normally drive, like he was drifting toward me. I called it out on the CB. Breaker 19, this is Rodriguez, eastbound on Route 20. Anyone else seeing the blue Freightliner going west? He keeps passing me. A driver named Thompson answered. Rodriguez, I'm westbound on 20, been driving for 2 hours. Haven't seen any blue Freightliner. He's right there. We've passed each other 3 times in the last half hour. Rodriguez, I'd have seen him. We're on the same road going the same direction. There's no blue Freightliner out here. But there was. 12 minutes later, mile marker 274, we passed again. His smile was wider now, showing too many teeth. His wave was more frantic, both hands off the wheel, waving at me like he was drowning and I was a rescue boat. And his truck was definitely closer. The blue Freightliner drifted across the center line by at least a foot, close enough that I jerked my wheel right to avoid him. "Watch your lane, asshole!" I shouted it even though he couldn't hear me. He just smiled wider and kept waving. Fifth time, mile marker 283, I paid attention to his truck instead of his face. That's when I noticed. His truck was moving forward, but his wheels were turning backward. Not locked up, not skidding, actively rotating in reverse. His truck was driving backward while moving forward, physics bent in a way that made my eyes hurt to watch. I tried the CB again. "Anyone, I need help here. There's something wrong with the westbound Freightliner. His wheels are turning the wrong direction." Silence, then a voice I didn't recognize. "Lisa, stop looking at him. Don't wave back. He's not real." "Who is this?" "Doesn't matter. Just stop acknowledging him." Drivers who interact with the backward trucker, they end up joining him. They start driving backward too, stuck on Route 20 forever, passing everyone else, waving and smiling and getting closer. "What the fuck are you talking about?" "He's a loop driver. Got stuck in a time eddy somewhere on Route 20, been driving the same stretch backward for years. Every time someone waves back, he gets more real, more solid, and he starts pulling them into the loop with him. How many times have you passed him?" "5. Then you've got maybe 10 more passes before he catches you. Stop waving. Don't make eye contact. Ignore him completely." The CB went dead, static. I tried to respond, but the channel was empty. Mile marker 292, 12 minutes later. The blue Freightliner appeared in my lane, driving straight at me, wheels spinning backward, covering ground at impossible speed. I swerved onto the shoulder, horn blaring. He passed within inches, and I got a clear look at his face, still smiling but wrong. His skin was gray, his eyes were missing pupils, and his mouth wasn't moving right. The smile was fixed, like someone had carved it into his face and it had frozen that way. He waved as he passed, both hands, no hands on the wheel at all. His truck drove itself backward while he focused entirely on waving at me. I pulled over, shaking, checked my mirrors. The highway behind me was empty. The blue Freightliner was gone, but I knew it wasn't over. 12 minutes. That's how long I had before he appeared again. I used the time to inspect my truck, looking for, I don't know what. Some sign that I was being pulled into whatever loop the blue Freightliner was stuck in. Everything looked normal. Tires, engine, cargo, all fine. But when I checked my odometer, something was wrong. It was running backward, not quickly, just a slow reverse tick. I was gaining miles by losing them. Mile marker 301. Right on schedule, the blue Freightliner appeared in the westbound lane. This time, he'd crossed the center line completely. He was driving in my lane, heading straight toward me, going backward. I had nowhere to go, shoulder on my right, ditch beyond that. I accelerated, trying to get past him, but his speed matched mine. We were going to collide. At the last second, his truck phased through mine. I felt it pass through my cab, a sensation like driving through cold water, and then he was behind me. I saw him in my mirror, turned around in his seat, still waving, still smiling that carved face smile. My radio crackled. 7 more passes, Lisa, then you're his. I tried to respond. What does he want? He doesn't want anything. He's not conscious anymore. He's just a loop, a recording stuck on repeat. But the loop is hungry. It needs to grow. Every driver it traps adds 12 more minutes to the cycle. You'll be another ghost on Route 20, driving backward, waving at strangers, pulling them into the loop with you. I floored the accelerator. The speedometer climbed to 75, 80, 85. Illegal speed, dangerous speed, but I needed to break the 12-minute pattern. If I could change the timing, maybe I could escape whatever cycle I'd fallen into. Mile marker 315. 10 minutes later, not 12. The blue Freightliner wasn't there. I'd broken the pattern. Relief flooded through me. I'd escaped. Then I saw him in my rearview mirror. Not behind me on the road, inside my truck. The driver sat in my sleeper cab, watching me through the curtain, waving. His smile was so wide now that his face was splitting at the corners, skin tearing to accommodate the impossible width of his grin. I slammed on the brakes. The truck shuddered to a stop. I threw open the sleeper curtain. Empty, nothing there. But I could still see him in the mirror, waving, smiling, his image burned into the reflection even though the space was empty. Back on the road, I had to keep moving. Standing still felt worse somehow, like I was giving the loop time to calcify around me. Mile marker 324. The blue Freightliner passed me normally in the westbound lane, wheels still spinning backward. The driver waved with both hands and his head. His neck extended, stretching across the center line, his oversized head hovering near my window, that awful smile inches from my face. I rolled up the window. It didn't help. I could see him through the glass, close enough to count his teeth. Too many teeth. Rows of them receding back into his throat, all perfectly white, all perfectly inhuman. 5 more passes, the CB voice again, calm and inevitable. Then you become like him, a backward driver on Route 20, forever. How do I stop it? You don't, you accepted the interaction. You waved back. That's the invitation he needs. Now he's pulling you into his timeline where forward and back. Ward are reversed, where Route 20 is an infinite loop and every driver is trapped in their own 12-minute cycle. Mile marker 333. The blue Freightliner was next to me now, matching my speed perfectly, driving in the westbound lane but pace for pace with my eastbound rig. The driver had stopped waving. He just stared, that carved smile unchanging, his gray face pressed against his window, eyes locked on mine. I tried to slow down. His truck slowed with me. I accelerated. He matched me. We were synchronized, 2 trucks moving as one, bound together by whatever force drove the loop. His lips moved. I couldn't hear him, but I could read the words. Join me. Fuck you, I shouted it at him, at the empty Montana highway, at whatever physics-breaking nightmare I'd stumbled into. He pointed ahead. Mile marker 342 approached, and beyond it I saw something impossible, a wall. A solid wall of darkness cutting across the highway, perpendicular to the road, blocking all eastbound travel. The westbound lane continued fine, but the eastbound lane, my lane, terminated at the wall. I was driving toward a dead end that shouldn't exist. I braked hard. The blue Freightliner braked with me, perfectly synchronized. We stopped 50 feet from the wall. It was perfectly flat, perfectly black, absorbing light. And in its surface I saw reflections, trucks. Dozens of trucks, all driving toward the wall, all about to hit it. All versions of my truck from different moments, different timelines, all converging on this point. The driver in the blue Freightliner finally stopped smiling. His face went slack, expressionless, and he pointed at the wall again. Then he drove forward, straight into the darkness. His truck passed through the wall like it wasn't there and disappeared. 3 more passes. The CB voice was fading, distorted. Or you can drive through the wall now, same result either way. The loop closes, you become part of Route 20 forever. I looked in my rearview mirror. Behind me, other versions of the blue Freightliner were approaching, dozens of them, all converging on this location. All with gray-faced drivers waving, smiling, pulling more truckers into the loop. I didn't have 3 more passes. I had one choice: drive through the wall and join the loop, or turn around and try to escape. I threw the truck in reverse, backed away from the wall, transmissions screaming at the abuse. The blue Freightliners kept coming, surrounding me, boxing me in. I cranked the wheel, attempting a jackknife turn, trying to get my truck pointed west. If I could just reverse direction, drive away from the wall, maybe I could break free. The turn worked. I straightened out facing west, floored the accelerator. My truck jumped forward, racing away from the wall, away from the converging loop trucks. Mile marker 341. Mile marker 340. I was making distance. The wall was receding behind me. I was going to make it. Then I passed the blue Freightliner going east, and I was waving at him. Both hands off my wheel, big enthusiastic wave, smiling so wide my face hurt. I tried to stop, tried to pull my hands down, but they kept waving, independent of my will. I looked at my side mirror. My face was gray. My eyes were losing their pupils. My smile was stretching wider than mouth should stretch. I'd become the loop driver. Now I'm trapped on Route 20, driving backward, waving at everyone I pass. 12-minute intervals forever. I don't control my truck anymore. It drives itself, wheels spinning in reverse while moving forward, breaking physics with every rotation. I just wave and smile and watch other drivers pass by. Most ignore me, smart ones, but occasionally someone waves back, professional courtesy, friendly gesture. And when they do, I feel the loop grow stronger. I'm pulling them in, creating more backward drivers, expanding the Route 20 Loop 1 trucker at a time. I don't want to do this, but I can't stop. The loop won't let me. It's using my body, my truck, my 12-minute cycle to trap others. I'm a lure, a warning, a ghost on the highway that hungry drivers wave at without thinking. If you're driving Route 20 through Montana and you see a blue Freightliner with a gray-faced driver waving at you, don't wave back. Don't make eye contact. Don't acknowledge me at all. Because I'm not real anymore. I'm just a loop, a recording stuck on repeat, driving backward through the same 12 minutes forever. And if you wave back, you'll join me. You'll become another backward driver on Route 20, expanding the loop, trapping more drivers, waving and smiling and breaking physics until the highway is nothing but ghost trucks driving in impossible directions. All of us trapped in our own 12-minute cycles, forever passing each other, forever waving, forever caught in the loop that closes. Mile marker 247. Here we go again, someone's coming. Eastbound truck, professional driver, probably tired, probably grateful to see a friendly face. They're going to wah. I can feel it, and when they do, the loop will claim them. I'm waving now, smiling, can't stop. Don't want to, but want doesn't matter anymore. I'm the driver who won't stop waving, the backward trucker. The loop that grows, and Route 20 stretches ahead and behind me, infinite and hungry, collecting drivers one wave at a time. Story 3. The fuel that remembers where you've been. I filled my tank at a no-name truck stop in West Virginia, and the fuel gauge started showing destinations instead of capacity. And now every gallon I burn takes me backward through my own route history to places I've already left. Angela Foster, 39 years old, 13 years hauling, mostly East Coast corridors. I'd driven past the truck stop 100 times without noticing it. Just another generic fuel island somewhere on Route 119, the kind of place that appears and disappears depending on whether you need it. But my tank was reading an eighth, and the next major stop was 40 miles ahead, so I pulled in. The pumps were old-style mechanical, the kind with rolling number displays instead of digital screens. No branding, no credit card readers, just a handwritten sign. Full service, only $2.87 gallon. Cash price cheaper than everywhere else, which should have been a red flag, but I was 3 payments behind on my truck and desperate to save every dollar. An attendant came out before I could get down from my cab. Old man, maybe 70, wearing coveralls that hadn't been washed in years. He didn't say anything, just started fueling my truck. I tried to tell him to stop at 100 gallons. I wanted to keep some cash for food, but he ignored me. Kept pumping until my dual tanks read full, 250 gallons total. I paid cash. He counted it slowly, then looked at me with eyes that didn't blink right. "This fuel's got memory," he said. "Burns backward through your history. Every gallon takes you one stop back. You're carrying 250 stops in those tanks now. Hope you liked where you've been because you're going back." What the hell does that mean? He walked away without answering. I got back in my truck, checked the fuel gauge. Instead of showing full or 250 gal, the digital readout showed text. "Last stop, Charleston WV 12 miles ago." I rubbed my eyes. The text didn't change. My fuel gauge was showing my previous location, not my fuel level, some kind of malfunction, wiring issue. I'd have it checked at the next stop. I pulled onto the highway heading north. Within a mile, I noticed the landscape changing. Subtle at first, trees that looked different, billboards I'd passed before reappearing. By mile 2, I was certain. I was driving through areas I'd already driven through, seeing landmarks in reverse order. The shopping center that should have been 20 miles behind me appeared ahead on my right. The exit sign for Charleston, which I'd passed an hour ago, was coming up again. I checked my GPS. It showed me driving north on Route 119, making forward progress. But my eyes showed me driving backward through my own route, passing landmarks in reverse order. Both were true. I was moving forward through space, but backward through my history. The fuel gauge updated. Last stop, BECKLEYWV 84 miles ago. Beckley, I'd stopped there 3 hours ago for coffee, and now somehow I was approaching it again. I watched the exit appear exactly as I remembered it. Same gas stations, same fast food places, same everything. But I was supposed to be 100 miles north of here, not returning. I pulled into the same coffee shop I'd used before. Same parking space available like I'd never left. Inside, the same waitress worked the counter. When I ordered coffee, she looked at me confused. "Didn't you just leave, like 10 minutes ago?" "I was here 3 hours ago." "No, honey, you left 10 minutes ago. I watched you walk out. Now you're back." She checked the clock. "It's 2:47. You were here at 2:37, 10 minutes. "It's 5:53. I showed her my phone. She showed me the clock on the wall, 2:47 p.m. But my phone, my truck's clock, every device I had showed 5:53 p.m., 3 hours and 6 minutes later. Time was broken, split between what I was experiencing and what the world was experiencing. I ran back to my truck. The fuel gauge had updated. Last stop, BLUFILD WV 162 miles ago. Bluefield, where I'd eaten lunch. 5 hours in my past, and according to the gauge, that's where I was heading next. The fuel was burning backward through my history, pulling me to every place I'd been in reverse order. I tried driving north anyway. Didn't matter. Within 20 miles, Bluefield appeared. Not ahead of me on the route, literally materialized around me. One moment I was on Route 119, the next I was on the Bluefield Main Street, parked outside the diner where I'd eaten lunch. The transition was instant, seamless, like the world had simply edited me from one location to another. I checked my odometer. It had increased by the correct mileage. I checked my GPS. It showed me driving the correct route. But reality showed me in Bluefield, a place I'd left 5 hours ago. The fuel was overriding geography, pulling me backward through my own timeline. The fuel gauge updated. Last stop, WITHEVILLE VA 221 miles ago. Wytheville, where I'd refueled yesterday, 24 hours in my past. I checked my fuel level. I'd burned about 30 gallons, which meant I'd been pulled back through 30 stops. 220 stops remaining. 220 previous locations I'd have to revisit before the fuel ran out. I tried turning the truck off. Engine died fine. But when I checked the fuel gauge, it still showed. Next stop, WITHEVILLE, VA 221 miles ago. The fuel was active whether the engine ran or not. I tried siphoning the fuel out. Got a hose, opened the tank, tried to drain it into empty containers. The fuel wouldn't come out. The tanks were full. I could see the diesel inside, smell it, but it wouldn't flow, like it was locked in place until burned through the engine. So I drove. What else could I do? The fuel was pulling me backward through my history, and the only way to move through it was to keep driving, keep burning through stops until, what? Until I reached 250 stops ago, until I'd rewound my entire recent history. Wytheville appeared around me 3 hours later. Same fuel island, same pump. I checked the date on my phone, correct date. Checked the date on the pump display, yesterday's date. I existed in today, but the world around me existed in yesterday. The fuel had pulled me back 24 hours to the exact moment I'd refueled here before. I saw myself, the other me, the version from yesterday, standing at this same pump fueling this same truck. He was translucent, ghost-like, but real enough that I could see his face clearly. My face. He looked tired, annoyed, worried about money, all the things I'd been feeling yesterday. He didn't see me. Just finished fueling, paid, got back in his truck and drove away. I watched him go, watched myself leave, and felt time collapse. I was observing my own past, standing in my own history, pulled backward by fuel that remembered every place I'd been. The fuel gauge updated. Last stop, Roanoke, VA 297 miles ago. Roanoke, 2 days ago. I delivered a load there, spent the night in a motel. And now I was being pulled back to it, drawn through my history like a needle through fabric, stitching backward through my own timeline. The pattern became clear. Every stop I'd made, every fuel station, every rest area, every delivery point, the fuel remembered them. All of them. And it was taking me backward through each one, in reverse chronological order, forcing me to revisit my entire route history. I drove for days, or thought I did. Time became meaningless when you're moving backward through your own past. My phone showed days passing forward, but the world around me showed days passing backward. I revisited deliveries I'd made, saw ghost versions of myself unloading cargo. I returned to truck stops where I'd slept, watched myself walk to the showers. I drove backward through my entire month, the fuel gauge counting down, 200 stops, 150, 100. Each stop I saw myself. The ghost me from that time, translucent but real, living through moments I'd already lived. And each time I was more translucent, more ghost-like. As I moved backward through my history, I was becoming less real in the present. By stop 73, I could see through my own hands. By stop 41, my truck was half-transparent, visible but not fully solid. By stop 12, I could pass my hand through the steering wheel. I was becoming a memory, dissolving into my own past. The fuel gauge updated. Last stop, origin point 0 miles. Origin point, where I'd first filled my tanks with the memory fuel. The truck stop in West Virginia that shouldn't exist. I'd burned through all 250 stops, revisited my entire history, and now I was being pulled back to the beginning. The truck stop appeared around me. Same mechanical pumps, same handwritten sign, but the attendant was gone. The whole place was empty, abandoned. Weeds growing through the pavement, pumps rusted, like it hadn't been used in years. I got out of my truck, or tried to. I was so translucent now that I fell through the door instead of opening it. Passed through the metal like it wasn't there. I'd become a ghost, a memory as insubstantial as the past I'd been traveling through. My truck was the same, translucent, barely visible, and it was stuck at the pump exactly where I'd filled it days ago. Or had it been days, my phone showed a date, but the world showed a different date. I couldn't tell which was real anymore. The fuel gauge read, origin point REACHED, now beginning secondary cycle. Secondary cycle, what the fuck did that M? The end. The gauge updated. Last stop before origin, Charleston WV 12 miles ago. No, it was starting over. The fuel hadn't run out, it had reset. I was going to be pulled backward through my history again, revisiting every stop, becoming more ghost-like with each cycle, until I dissolved completely into my own past. I tried to run, couldn't. My translucent legs wouldn't carry me. I tried to leave the truck stop. Couldn't. I was bound to this location, to this origin point, stuck in a loop of memory fuel that would cycle through my history forever. Other trucks started appearing, translucent like mine, parked at the other pumps. Drivers inside, barely visible, all trapped at the origin point. All of us had filled our tanks with memory fuel. All of us were burning backward through our histories. All of us were ghosts now, stuck in loops, endlessly revisiting our pasts. I'm on cycle 17 now, or maybe cycle 70. I've lost count. Each cycle I become less real. Each cycle I revisit my stops, see my ghost selves living moments I've already lived. Each cycle, the fuel gauge counts down from 250 to 0, then resets. The other drivers don't talk, can't talk. We're too insubstantial. Just ghosts in ghost trucks, burning ghost fuel, trapped in our own histories. The truck stop is full now. Maybe 40 trucks, all translucent, all cycling through their pasts. And the attendant is back, solid, real, the only real thing here. He walks between the ghost trucks, checking gauges, nodding with satisfaction. This is what he wanted. This is what the fuel does. It turns drivers into memories, traps them in loops of their own history, creates ghosts that endlessly retrace their roots. Fuel's got memory, he says to the empty air, to the ghost drivers who can't respond. Burns backward through your history. You're all carrying your stops now, every place you've been. You'll visit them forever. Perfect loop, perfect trap. I'm cycling through again. Back to Charleston, back to Beckley, back through my entire route, ghosting through my own past, watching myself live moments I can barely remember. The fuel gauge counts down, 240, 230, 220. Eventually, it'll reach zero. Then it'll reset. Then I'll cycle through again. Forever. A ghost on the highways, burning fuel that remembers where I've been, trapped in my own history, never moving forward, always returning to places I've already left. The fuel that remembers. The stops that cycle. The history that never ends. And me, Angela Foster, 39 years old, 13 years on the road, now endlessly driving backward through my own past, a translucent memory of a driver who made the mistake of filling her tanks at a truck stop that shouldn't exist. If you see a ghost truck on Route 119, translucent and flickering, driving through locations it's already passed, that's me. That's all of us. Trapped in our fuel, trapped in our history, trapped in the endless cycle of stops that the memory fuel creates. Don't wave. Don't acknowledge us. And for fuck's sake, don't stop at the truck stop with mechanical pumps and $2.87 gas. Because the fuel remembers. And once you fill your tanks, you'll remember too. You'll remember every stop, every location, every moment of your route history. And you'll revisit them all, backward through time, cycling endlessly until you're nothing but a ghost burning memory fuel on highways that loop through your own past forever. Story 4. The CB radio that receives tomorrow. My CB radio started picking up tomorrow's traffic reports at the Iowa 80 truck stop, and now I'm hearing accidents that haven't happened yet. And when I try to prevent them, I cause worse ones. And the voice on Channel 19 that's warning me about future crashes is my own voice from 12 hours ahead, screaming at me to stop trying to help. Raymond Park, 45 years old, 19 years driving, specializing in time-sensitive freight across I-80. I'd installed a new CB radio in Omaha, high-end Cobra with noise filtering and extended range. Professional installation, everything by the book. It worked fine for the first 200 miles. Then, at the Iowa 80 truck stop, the largest in the world, it started receiving broadcasts from the future. 3:47 a.m., parked in the rig section, trying to grab 4 hours of sleep before pushing on to Chicago. The CB crackled to life on Channel 19. Breaker, breaker, this is dispatch to all eastbound I-80 traffic. Major accident at mile marker 284, 4-vehicle pileup, highway closed for next 6 hours. Detour via Highway 30. I grabbed the mic. This is Park, I'm at Iowa 80. What mile marker are we at? Mile marker 284, another voice responded. But there's no accident here, highway's clear. I checked my GPS. Mile marker 284 was 15 miles ahead, and according to the driver there, no accident, but the CB had clearly announced one. I was about to write it off as a prank. When my radio crackled again. Raymond, this is you, 12 hours from now. Don't go to mile marker 284. Whatever you do, don't try to help. You'll cause it. You'll cause all of it. My own voice. Unmistakably mine, same slight accent, same speech patterns, but panicked, terrified, speaking to me from the future. Who the fuck is this? I said into the CB. It's you, my future voice was screaming now. I'm you 12 hours ahead trying to warn you. The CB is picking up tomorrow's broadcasts. Everything you're hearing already happened, to me, to us. And if you try to change anything, you'll make it worse, so much worse. I turned off the CB, sat in my dark cab, heart hammering. Someone was fucking with me, had to be. Some asshole who'd hacked CB frequencies, playing a prank using AI to copy my voice. That was the rational explanation. Except I turned the CB back on and my future voice was still there. I know you think this is fake. I thought that too. But in 20 minutes, a swift driver named Jennifer Marks is going to jackknife at mile marker 276. She's fine, minor damage, but traffic backs up for an hour. You're going to try to warn her. Don't. If you warn her, she overcorrects and crosses the median. She hits an RV head-on, family of 4 killed, all because you tried to help. I checked the time, 3:51 a.m. 20 minutes would be 4:11 a.m. I could drive to mile marker 276, see if anything happened. Prove this was bullshit. I started my truck, pulled onto I-80 eastbound. At exactly 4:11 a.m. at exactly mile marker 276, I watched a swift truck lose control, jackknife across 2 lanes, and come to rest on the shoulder. No other vehicles involved. The driver got out, shaken but unharmed. My future voice came through the CB. Now do you believe me? I just watched you drive past her. In my timeline, you stopped to help. You called it in early. She heard the warning, panicked, overcorrected, and killed 4 people. You think you're helping. You're not. You're making it worse. I pulled over, hands shaking. The swift driver was already on her phone, calling for assistance. She was fine. The accident was minor. But according to my future self, I could turn this into a tragedy just by trying to prevent it. What do? I asked the CB. Nothing, do absolutely nothing. Don't report accidents you see coming. Don't try to save anyone. The future I'm living is the result of you trying to help. Every intervention makes it worse. The timeline branches wrong and people who should live end up dead. Over the next 6 hours, my CB radio broadcast dozens of accidents, all of them from tomorrow. I heard pileups, rollovers, jackknives, every possible kind of highway disaster. And every time I had to decide, warn the drivers or stay silent. At mile marker 312, a fuel tanker was going to lose its brakes. I heard the future broadcast at 6:22 a.m. Mayday, mayday, this is tanker 447, brakes failed, can't slow down, evacuate the highway. I was 20 miles behind the tanker. I could see him ahead, driving normally. If I warned him now, he might pull over, check his brakes, prevent the accident. Don't do it, my future voice said. I warned him. He pulled over. While he was checking his brakes, a drowsy driver drifted onto the shoulder and hit him at 70 miles per hour. Tanker exploded, destroyed a quarter-mile of highway. 12 people died. In the timeline where you stay silent, his brakes fail at mile marker 319. He runs off the road into an empty field, no casualties. So I stayed silent, watched the tanker drive past, and 20 miles later at mile marker 319, I watched him lose his brakes, drift off the road, and roll to a stop in a field. The driver climbed out unharmed. In the future timeline, 12 people died. In this timeline, no one did. You're starting to understand, my future voice said. The CB is receiving broadcasts from a timeline where you tried to help, where you warned everyone, prevented every accident you foresaw. And in doing so, you caused worse accidents, worse deaths. The timeline branches got so tangled that the CB started reaching backward, trying to prevent its own timeline. You're hearing me from tomorrow, but I'm hearing someone from the day after, and they're hearing someone from the day after that. It's an infinite chain of future versions warning, past versions not to help. How does it end? I asked. It doesn't. You can't turn off the CB. It's not the radio, it's you. You're the receiver. Once you start hearing tomorrow, you hear it forever. And you have to make the choice every time. Stay silent and watch accidents happen, or intervene and cause worse ones. There's no right answer, just different versions of wrong. At mile marker 387, I heard a family in an RV broadcasting a mayday. Engine fire, trapped in the vehicle, screaming for help. I could see them ahead, the RV driving normally, no sign of fire. I had maybe 5 minutes before their engine caught fire. If I pulled a low. NG side, flashed my lights, got them to pull over, I could save them. Don't, my future voice said. I pulled them over, they thanked me. Then while we were stopped on the shoulder, a pickup lost control in the rain, hit them. All 6 people in the RV died. In the timeline where you stay silent, the engine fire is small. They pull over themselves, extinguish it, everyone survives with minor smoke inhalation. I gripped my steering wheel so hard the leather creaked. You're asking me to watch people burn. I'm asking you to trust that some timelines are better than others. In my timeline, I tried to be a hero. I saved the people I could see dying. And in doing so, I caused deaths I couldn't foresee. You're receiving my timeline because it's the worst one. The timeline where intervention made everything worse. Stay silent. Let the future happen. It's better this way. The RV drove past me. 3 miles later, I saw smoke from their engine. They pulled over, extinguished the fire. Everyone was fine. In my future self's timeline, they all died because I tried to save them. I drove for 12 hours, listening to disasters that hadn't happened yet, staying silent while people walked into accidents I could see coming. A teenage driver who was going to fall asleep and cross the median, I didn't warn her. She woke up just before impact, swerved back into her lane, avoided the accident entirely. In the timeline where I warned her, she panicked, overcorrected, and died. A trucker whose load was going to shift and cause a rollover. I didn't alert him. His load shifted at low speed in a turn, minor damage, he was fine. In the timeline where I warned him, he tried to resecure the load on the highway shoulder, got hit by a passing car, killed instantly. Every silence I kept saved lives. Every intervention I didn't make prevented worse disasters. The future I was hearing was the timeline where I tried to help, and it was hell. At hour 11, my future voice said, "One more hour, Raymond, then you'll be me. You'll be 12 hours ahead broadcasting warnings back to your past self. And you'll be hearing a version of yourself from 13 hours ahead warning you not to help. The chain never breaks. We're all trapped in it, all the future Raymonds warning past Raymonds, an infinite stack of warnings reaching backward through time. How many of me are there? I don't know. I'm hearing the me from 13 hours ahead. He's hearing the me from 14 hours ahead. It could go on forever. An infinite chain of Raymond Parks, all receiving tomorrow's disasters, all warning our past selves not to intervene. At hour 12, something changed. My voice on the CB stopped. For 10 minutes, silence. Then my own voice came through, but different, not panicked. Calm. Raymond, this is you from 24 hours ahead. The chain does end. At the 24-hour mark, you stop hearing the future. You've learned the lesson. You know that intervention causes worse outcomes. You can finally turn off the CB. Thank Christ, I said. How do I? But you'll remember. You'll remember every accident you didn't prevent, every person you could have warned. And you'll have to live with the knowledge that silence was the right choice. That doing nothing saved more lives than doing something. It's not a lesson you can unlearn. The 24-hour mark approached. My CB went silent. No more future broadcasts, no more warnings, just normal Channel 19 chatter, truckers talking about weather, traffic, fuel prices. I'd escaped the chain of future voices. But I couldn't escape the knowledge. I'd seen tomorrow. I'd watched disasters unfold before they happened. And I'd learned that intervention was worse than silence, that trying to save people often killed them, that the future was better left untouched. 2 days later, I was westbound on I-80 when I saw an accident developing. A car drifting into the wrong lane, a truck unable to stop in time. I could flash my lights, honk my horn, warn them, but I'd learned. I stayed silent. They collided, minor accident. Both drivers fine, exactly as it was supposed to happen. 3 days later, another accident. A rollover waiting to happen, truck going too fast in high wind. I could warn him on the CB, but I didn't. He rolled, walked away with bruises. In the timeline where I warned him, he'd probably have panicked and caused a worse accident. I'd become a passive observer, a trucker who watched disasters unfold without intervening, trusting that the timeline knew better than I did, trusting that silence was salvation. But sometimes, late at night, I still hear my future voice on Channel 19, not from 12 hours ahead anymore, from years ahead. An old man's voice, still mine, warning me about accidents decades in the future, warning me to stay silent, to trust the timeline, to let the future happen without interference. The CB radio that receives tomorrow taught me the most horrible lesson, that preventing tragedy. Why often creates worse tragedy. That intervention fractures timelines, that the future is better left alone, that the best thing a person with foreknowledge can do is nothing at all. I drive now with my CB on Channel 19, listening to normal traffic reports, never warning anyone about anything. I see accidents coming. I've developed a sixth sense after hearing so many future broadcasts, but I stay silent. I let them happen, because I know that saving one person might doom 6 others, that preventing one accident might cause 3 more. The CB is just a radio now. It doesn't receive tomorrow anymore. But I don't need it to. I learned the pattern. Learned that the future is fragile. Learned that heroes cause disasters. Learned that the best way to save lives is to let people live the lives they're supposed to live, including the accidents, including the tragedies, including the deaths that were always going to happen. The CB radio that receives tomorrow gave me knowledge I can never use. And that might be the cruelest thing of all, knowing exactly how to help and knowing exactly why I shouldn't. Channel 19 crackles, someone's reporting an accident ahead. I drive past it without stopping. Because that's what the future taught me. That's what tomorrow sounds like. Silence. Story 5. The Tunnel That Remembers Your Guilt. The Allegheny Tunnel on the Pennsylvania Turnpike is 6,166 feet long. But when I drove through it at 2:33 a.m. on November 8th, 2023, it extended to infinity, and the walls displayed every person I'd ever hurt projected in perfect detail, and the exit only appeared after I'd watched myself destroy them all over again. Thomas Brennan, 59 years old, 31 years on the road, more miles than I can count. I'd driven through the Allegheny Tunnel thousands of times. Knew every reflector, every ventilation fan, every crack in the concrete. It's a nothing tunnel. Boring, simple, straight line through a mountain. Until the night it started showing me my sins. I entered at the standard 55 miles per hour, nothing unusual. Dual-bore tunnel, eastbound lane, light traffic. One car ahead of me, nothing behind. Normal autumn night, cold but clear. My headlights caught the familiar yellow tile walls, the ceiling-mounted lights creating their standard rhythm of bright dark, bright dark. At the quarter-mile mark, the tunnel diverged from normal. The car ahead of me was gone, just vanished between light pools, and the walls were wrong. Instead of yellow tile, they were concrete, gray, rough concrete, and there were images on them, faint at first like shadows but growing clearer as I drove deeper. They were faces, people I knew or had known. The walls were covered in faces, all of them staring at me. My ex-wife, Sarah, appeared first. Life-sized projection on the right wall, moving like a film, showing the moment I told her I was leaving. I'd been 36, tired of marriage, tired of responsibility. I walked out on her and our 2 daughters without looking back, filed for divorce from a motel room in Ohio, and never paid child support. The wall showed her crying, showed my daughters asking why Daddy left, showed the bankruptcy and the foreclosure that followed because she couldn't pay the mortgage alone. I wanted to look away, couldn't. The tunnel walls surrounded me, the projection continuing on both sides now, showing years of damage I'd caused. Sarah working 3 jobs, my daughters growing up without a father, their graduations that I didn't attend, their weddings I wasn't invited to, all of it my fault, all of it because I chose the road over family. No, I said it to the empty tunnel. I made a choice, people make choices. The walls didn't care. The images continued. Sarah dying of a heart attack at 57, stress and overwork and a life I'd made harder. My daughters speaking at her funeral, mentioning how she'd done it alone, how she'd been mother and father both, never mentioning me. I'd been erased from their history, a footnote of abandonment they'd learned to live without. The tunnel stretched ahead. Should have reached the halfway point by now, but the exit was nowhere visible. Just infinite concrete walls showing me my failures. Next came Marcus. Guy I'd worked with in the early 90s, new driver, nervous, looking for guidance. I'd hazed him, pranked him, made his life hell because that's what the veterans did to newbies. I told myself it was tradition, toughening him up. The walls showed the truth, showed Marcus crying in his truck, showed him quitting after 6 weeks, broken and humiliated. Showed him failing to find other work, spiraling into depression, dying of suicide 3 years later. I'd killed him, not directly, but the chain was clear. My cruelty started the cascade that ended with Marcus in a garage, engine running, carbon monoxide filling his lungs. And I'd never known, never followed up, never cared. I didn't know, I told the walls, if I'd known. The walls showed me other Marcuses, other new drivers I'd hazed, humiliated, broken. Some quit and recovered, some didn't. The tunnel was cataloging them all, showing me the consequences of casual cruelty, of treating people as entertainment. The tunnel deepened. The exit was impossibly far now, a pinpoint of light that never got closer no matter how fast I drove. My speedometer read 70, but the light didn't approach. The tunnel had stopped following normal physics. It was holding me here, forcing me to watch. Next came the accident. I-70 in Colorado, winter of 2012. I'd been tired, running over hours, pushing to make a delivery deadline. The car didn't see me merging, or I didn't see the car. The investigation was inconclusive, but I knew. I'd glanced at my phone just for a second, and when I looked up, I was crushing a Honda against a barrier wall. 24-year-old woman named Jennifer died on impact. The walls showed her last moment. The terror on her face as my trailer pushed her car sideways, the metal crumpling, her skull hitting the window, the light leaving her eyes. And then the walls showed what came after, her parents at the funeral. Her fiancé destroyed, unable to function. Her unborn child, she'd been 6 weeks pregnant, too early to show, but the walls knew. The walls showed everything. I tried to stop the truck. Brakes didn't work. Or worked, but the tunnel pulled me forward anyway, forcing me to maintain speed, forcing me to watch. I was cleared, I shouted at the walls. The investigation said it wasn't my fault. The walls showed me the truth, showed the phone in my hand, showed my eyes off the road, showed the split second when I could have braked, could have swerved, could have prevented it all, but I'd been distracted, tired, careless, and Jennifer died because of it. More faces, more projections, every person I'd ever hurt scrolling past in perfect detail. The waitress I'd screamed at for slow service, showing me her face as she went home and cried. The lot lizard I'd shorted on payment, showing me her getting beaten by her pimp for coming up light. The homeless guy I'd run off from my truck, showing him dying of exposure 3 days later. Every casual cruelty, every moment of selfishness, every time I'd chosen convenience over compassion. The tunnel remembered all of it, and it was making me watch. The projections started overlapping. Too many faces, too many sins, all playing simultaneously on the walls. I couldn't track them all, could only catch glimpses. My brother who I'd stolen from, my mother who I'd abandoned in her final illness. The dog I'd hit and left on the roadside. The environment I'd polluted with 47 years of diesel exhaust. The small towns I'd driven through without spending money, contributing to their economic decline. The workers in factories who made the goods I hauled, underpaid and overworked. Every connection, every consequence, every butterfly effect of my existence was projected on the tunnel walls. And all of it was negative. All of it was harm. The tunnel was showing me that my life had been a net loss to the world, that I'd taken more than I'd given, hurt more than I'd helped. Stop, my voice broke. Please stop. The walls didn't stop. They accelerated. The projections moved faster, cramming more and more guilt into every second. I was seeing dozens of people simultaneously, all the ways I'd failed them, all the harm I'd caused. The tunnel was forcing me to experience every consequence of my existence at once, compressing years of guilt into minutes of concentrated horror. I tried to close my eyes. Couldn't. My eyelids wouldn't obey. The tunnel had control, forcing me to watch, forcing me to witness every sin, every failure, every moment where I'd chosen wrong. Then came the future projections. Not past sins, future ones. The walls showed me the people I was going to hurt if I kept living the way I lived, showed me the waitress I'd scream at next week, the driver I'd cut off next month, causing an accident, the family I'd fail to help at a rest stop next year, all the future harm I'd cause just by continuing to exist. What do you want from me? I screamed it at the walls, at the endless projections, at the tunnel that had trapped me in my own guilt. The projections stopped. The walls went blank. For 10 seconds, just smooth concrete and silence. Then text appeared, written directly on the wall in letters 10 feet high. Acknowledgement. I acknowledge it, my voice echoed in the empty tunnel. I've hurt people, I've failed people, I acknowledge all of it. More text. Acknowledgement without change is performance. The projections resumed, but different now. Instead of showing me the harm I'd caused, they showed me the moments where I could have chosen differently. The moment I could have stayed with Sarah. The moment I could have been kind to Marcus. The moment I could have pulled over and rested instead of driven. Tired and killing Jennifer. All the fork points. All the moments where my life could have branched toward better outcomes. And in every single one I chose wrong. Not because I was evil, because I was selfish, tired, lazy, human. I chose convenience over compassion over and over, and the tunnel was showing me the cumulative weight of those choices. I can't change the past, I shouted. The text updated, but you can change forward. The projections shifted again. Now they showed me futures, 2 side by side on opposite walls. On the left wall, my future if I continued as I was, more harm, more selfishness, more people hurt by my casual cruelty. A lonely death in a truck stop, unmourned, forgotten. A life that's subtracted from the world. On the right wall, my future if I changed. Reconciling with my daughters, helping new drivers instead of hazing them, driving more carefully. being kinder to service workers. Small changes, but compounding over time into a life that added instead of subtracted. "It's too late," I said, and I believed it. "I'm 59, I've hurt too many people, there's no redemption at this point." The text updated. "The best time to start was 30 years ago, the second best time is now." The tunnel finally showed me the exit. Not ahead, behind me. I'd driven past it while watching the walls, missed it while absorbed in my projections. To escape, I'd have to turn around. Had to reverse course, go back, exit the tunnel by traveling backward. I understood the metaphor. Couldn't escape by moving forward on my current path. Had to reverse, undo, go back, and take a different route. I stopped the truck, put it in reverse. The tunnel allowed it. I backed slowly, watching the exit light grow larger behind me. The walls stayed blank now, no more projections, like the tunnel had said what it needed to say and was allowing me to leave. I backed out of the tunnel, emerged on the westbound side even though I'd entered eastbound. The tunnel had turned me around, literally and figuratively, reversed my direction. I parked on the shoulder, sat in the dark cab, took out my phone and did something I hadn't done in 23 years. I called my daughter, the oldest. She'd be 41 now, probably wouldn't answer a number she didn't recognize at 3 in the morning. She answered, "Hello." "Jess, it's your father, Tom. I know I don't have the right to call. I know I've been gone for decades. But I need to tell you I'm sorry for leaving, for not being there for all of it." Silence, then, "It's been 23 years, why now?" "Because I drove through a tunnel that showed me what I've done, who I've hurt, and